This is the Colorado statute for disorderly conduct. 18-9-106. 18-9-106. Number 1. A person commits disorderly conduct if he or she intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly A. Makes a coarse and obviously offensive utterance, gesture, or display in a public place, and the utterance, gesture, or display tends to incite an immediate breach of the peace. Or B. Deleted by amendment in 2000. C. Makes unreasonable noise in a public place or near a private residence that he has no right to occupy. D. It's sexist. D. Fights with another in a public place except in an amateur or professional contest of athletic skill. Or E. Not being a peace officer, discharges a firearm in a public place except when engaged in lawful target practice or hunting, or the ritual discharge of blank ammunition cartridges as an attendee at a funeral for a deceased person who was a veteran of the armed forces of the United States. Or F. Not being a peace officer, displays a deadly weapon, displays any article used or fashioned in a manner to cause a person to reasonably believe that the article is a deadly weapon, or represents verbally or otherwise that he or she is armed with a deadly weapon in a public place in a manner calculated to alarm. 2. Repealed. 3A. An offense under paragraph A or C of subsection 1 of this section is a class 1 petty offense, except that if the offense is committed with the intent to disrupt, impair, or interfere with a funeral, or with intent to cause severe emotional distress to a person attending a funeral, it is a class 2 misdemeanor. B. An offense under paragraph D of subsection 1 of this section is a class 3 misdemeanor. C. An offense under paragraph E or F of subsection 1 of this section is a class 2 misdemeanor. So, what the hell does this mean? Well, disorderly conduct, it's not just about being, not just having conduct that is disorderly. There's several things. Any utterance, gesture, or display. Any utterance, gesture, or display is a petty 1 class offense. Also, any unreasonable noise. So that makes sense, right? Disorderly conduct. They're saying something, they're gesturing, they're doing something, some kind of display, right? Spotlighting. In fact, it's prima facie if you got a spotlight and a gun that you've been poaching if you're out in the field somewhere. So specifically, disorderly conduct is unreasonable noise and utterance, gesture, or displays that immediately cite an immediate breach of peace. So something that breaches the peace, some utterance, gesture, or display, or unreasonable noise which breaches the peace is a class 1 petty offense, which means it's the worst petty offense out there, but it's less than misdemeanors, less than felony. There's 2, 3, 4. There's 5 ways, specific ways that you could be disorderly. Fighting with another person in public. That's also disorderly conduct. Fighting with another in public is a class 3 misdemeanor, which is incredible. What, you were fighting? You were hitting another person? You were hitting another person's body and they could have pulled out a gun and shot and killed you? Well, that's a misdemeanor. Is it the big one? Nope. It's the third biggest one. It's not class 1 or 2, just a class 3. But I guess disorderly, it would be an assault plus disorderly? Nah, I don't know. And then the other 2 things is discharging a firearm in a public place and brandishing. Menacingly brandishing a firearm. So either shooting a firearm in a public place, and that's not reasonable, or brandishing a firearm in a menacing way. If you brandish a firearm or discharge a firearm in a public place, that's a class 2 misdemeanor. If you fight with another person, that's a class 3 misdemeanor. That's disorderly conduct, class 3 misdemeanor. And then, of course, the utterance, gesture, or display, or unreasonable noise that, breaches the peace. That's a class 1 petty offense, or it's a class 2 if it's a class 2 misdemeanor. So it shoots up from a class 1 petty offense to a class 2 misdemeanor if it's at a funeral. Then class 2 misdemeanor also for discharging a firearm in a public place, brandishing a firearm in a menacing way. That's a class 2 misdemeanor. And then it's a class 3 misdemeanor to fight with another person in public. Those are the 5 specific ways that you can get a disorderly conduct charge in Colorado. And then specifically what the disorderly is pointing towards. Is it the fight? Is it discharging the firearm? Or is it just being loud and obnoxious or gesturing and displaying? So this can be used as just a general thing, but it's also important because who the fuck wants people just breaching the peace and doing a bunch of hooligan shit? You're an American. You have a right to speak. You have a right to petition. You have a right to remonstrate. You got all these rights and freedoms. If the damn fucking troublemakers would read the rules, you got freedoms and you got felonies. You got shit you're allowed to do and you got shit that you're not allowed to do. A civil society would be encouraged if fucking, the goddamn citizens would actually read the rules of society. I'd be pissed. You're coming into my goddamn neighborhood and you didn't read any of the rules of Colorado? How fucking dare you? How goddamn dare you? CRS 189 106.